Hey guys, so let's talk the M1 iPad Pro. So, as much as I love this device, and I actually did use it exclusively as my work computer for about a month and a half, while I was in between other computers and kind of just to see if I could, I noticed quite a few things great and a little annoying about it. So I feel like a lot of the content that people have made about the iPad Pro as a pro device is mostly gushing on and on about it, how it's amazing and how it can do everything. And the one flaw, and I see people point this out in comments sometimes in videos, and I did want to speak to that in this video. They mentioned the one flaw that you see in a lot of these is that YouTubers talking about how great it is as a work machine seem to assume that everybody else that considers themselves a pro of some kind is a video editor. And so the main things they talk about it doing are video editing and photo editing. And as long as it does those two things well, in their mind, they're like, this is an amazing pro device. And it's not that, look, for video editing and photo editing, I've done both on this. It's splendid at both of those things. The M1 chip in this is a beast. It does video editing much better than the Surface tablet that I had previously been doing video editing on. So in those regards, sure, I can see why people really gush about this. But let me come at talking about this as a pro user from a slightly different angle. So for some background, I am a lifelong Windows and Android user that only in this last year made the switch to iPhone and all of these Apple devices, so that's a bit of context from where I'm coming from on it. And what I do for a living is SEO and marketing writing and things like that, and so a lot of my day is in websites, often WordPress, doing writing. I type a lot. I use builder tools, the Divi builder. I use things like Elementor. I've worked in the HubSpot and HubSpot's page builder and things like that. I'm in those a lot. I do a little bit of graphical manipulation for images and stuff, but I'm not a graphic artist. I'm not somebody who would be in Photoshop all day or doing crazy stuff. And obviously, as a YouTuber, I do some degree of video editing and prepping to go on YouTube, so I can speak to those types of things. And there are some really important things I want to say about that are not covered by any of the other people talking about how great this is for video editing. So, first off, if you're in WordPress, whether you're writing blog posts or you're doing page content, but especially when you're using the Gutenberg editor, which is their block editor, there is a weird delay when you're using a mouse on the iPad, where when you're, say, like right here and you're clicking the block below it to like switch where your cursor is, there's a weird like 2-second, like if I'm here, I'd click and it would be like, okay, and now you're there. Now, weirdly, that only happens when you're using a mouse. It's not a Bluetooth delay because it happens even when you use a USB mouse, and it's only a mouse. Don't know why it is, because if you touch the screen to move the cursor, that's instantaneous like it should be. It's not a huge deal, but if you're a person who's working in content all the time, having to have this weird lag every time it's moving is kind of annoying. And that's consistent in other aspects of using WordPress as well. And this is in Safari and in Firefox, so it's not just one browser. When I'm in the Divi builder sometimes, and I am going into the design options to change things like margins, padding, colors, etc. When you have a whole bunch of little spots where you can set settings, same deal there. If the cursor's here and I want to click into this spot over here to change a different setting, there's a delay there. Once again, if you use touch, it's instantaneous. With a mouse, for some reason, there's a delay. I don't know why that is, and when I have looked that problem up online, there's not really a lot of people talking about it, so I don't know if it's just me, but I doubt it, or just people for some reason aren't talking about this, but that's something to be aware of, that if you're used to working on a real computer, even though this can use a mouse and keyboard, which to a large degree makes it feel like a computer, there are little things like that kind of detract from the experience. One other thing that's been a big one for me, if you're working in these kind of pro tools for design, say in WordPress using Elementor, there's a thing along the top on the left-hand side of the screen where you have all of the different controls. You can make modules, and then at the bottom of it, it's where you would save and update the page and stuff like that. Well, quite often, the very bottom part of it, where you would hit save or update, gets chopped off, and there's not an easy way to get it back without sometimes like pinched to blow the page way up and then zooming it back out somehow restores the part that was missing, but other times it doesn't. and the only way to get it back is to hit refresh. So you're counting on autosave, having caught all of the stuff that you've done, still being there after it refreshes so that you have the save menu. And it does the same thing in HubSpot when I've used their page builder. Theirs is along the top that you would click to save, publish, or update. Same deal. At some point along the way in the editing process, that top bar gets chopped off. It's vanished. It doesn't show up anymore no matter how much you scroll up or down on the page. Don't know why. And from all the experimentation that I've done, largely the only way to get it back is to refresh the page. Once again, you're counting on autosave to catch everything you've done. Now, thus far, that's worked. Every time I've hit refresh, the autosave had done properly its job. Everything I did was there, and then the bar was back and I could hit update. But that's an unfortunate thing that is pretty consistent that happens. It doesn't happen on a MacBook, it doesn't happen on the Surface tablet, it doesn't happen on my desktop PC, but it only happens on the iPad. I don't know why. I would have thought the Safari that they put on the iPad is exactly the same Safari that's on Mac OS. Evidently it's not. And so there are just little things like that that end up being kind of problematic. Now let me talk about a big one, because everybody, like I said, always talks about this for video editing and how amazing it is for that. The actual video editing component of it, yeah, that's a great experience. It scrubs really fast and smoothly back and forth. It can handle a whole lot of different optimizations in the video at once, and it renders it at the end, or exports it, whatever you want to call it, very quickly. Much faster than the Surface tablet does, if you're coming from that background. However, what do you do with the video once it's done and you want to put it on YouTube? If you're on a PC, that's as simple as you go to youtube.com, you log in as you, and you go to where you can upload videos, and it's simple. You cannot do that on the iPad because, and this is not the iPad's fault, let me stress that, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still a pain in the butt as an iPad user. Google can obviously tell that you're on a mobile device. So if you go to youtube.com on an iPad, when you get to the point where you want to upload a video, it will force you into the YouTube app. It won't let you do it through the website. And if you try to force it to go through the browser, my experience and that of other people's that I've read has been the upload will hang at like 6% every time in the browser. Just can't be done. So you have to upload in the YouTube app. Well, what's the big deal, you might be thinking? Fine, I'll go into the YouTube app, that's not a problem. Well, here are a couple things that are annoying about it. The menu that it brings up will only let you control the title and parts of the description, but you can't put things, I've tried this a couple times and I'm pretty sure it's the case, you can't edit the thumbnail for the video at that stage or a couple of the other settings. And so basically you're in this scenario where you've got to fill in half the information the video would publish with, and then just let it upload, and then quickly go into a different app, YouTube Studio, which then lets you edit videos you've already uploaded, and from there, you can go back into the video once it's uploaded, edit the thumbnail, and all the other stuff you need to do. Why is it like that? I have no idea. And it gets even more annoying. The YouTube app will only acknowledge video files from your photo gallery, meaning if you're like most professionals, where did you export your finished video to? Not your photo gallery, probably. You probably have a whole folder structure for your work where you neatly organize all of your different projects, and you exported your finished video into one of those. Well, if you're like that, what you'll have to do is copy it back out into your photo gallery, or get in the habit of every time you export it from your video editing software, export it into your photo gallery so that you could upload it to YouTube, and then know that after the fact you'll have to copy it out of the photo gallery over to where it actually goes. Why? Because the YouTube app will not allow you to choose files. It will only look at the photo gallery, and so that's where you're stuck with. Same thing for when you get to the point where you want to upload your thumbnail. It will only look in the photo gallery and not probably where you've actually put it. That just ends up creating needless steps, more small bits of work every time you're trying to upload a video. That was a real pain in the butt every time I did it. So people gush about how great this is for video production, and yet if you're a YouTuber, that part of it is really annoying. And again, that's not the iPad's fault, that's YouTube's fault for making a stupid app, quite frankly, that doesn't work very well for a mobile user. Now, a couple other things that people have commented before, but if you haven't heard those particular points before, they are definitely worth my talking about. a couple of the things that really stop this from being a standalone computer. Some people say, oh, this could be the only computer you work with. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I did pretty much use this as my everyday machine for a month and a half. But there were some things that I could see as problematic for a person that did not have a backup computer. Luckily, I did have backup computers to use. One, you can put external hard drives on this, but it does not have the ability to reformat or get information about it. So are you saying, hey, I know this 1 terabyte hard drive, has some amount of free space on it, but I've been using it for like a year or two. I'm not really sure offhand how much space there is available on it. Let me just check that quick. Nope, you can't. Not without third-party apps. That's kind of unfortunate. Is it formatted in the wrong setting? Good example. I had a Western Digital drive that was formatted in NTFS from when I was using Windows 10. NTFS is fine for Windows 10. Mac devices will only acknowledge it or write to it if it's exFAT. Okay, I'll just reformat it. No, you can't from an iPad. And so you have to plug that drive into some other actual computer to reformat it before it will actually work on here. If this was your only computer, well, how would you do that? You have nothing now to reformat this drive or use it. What's really weird about it is Apple made a big deal out about bragging about this Thunderbolt port on the side, that it's USB 4 and it's like super fast and it's supposed to be amazing. Other people have made this complaint as well, and I can corroborate it, that it does not run anywhere near as fast as you would think Thunderbolt is supposed to be. Now, when I plug in my SanDisk solid state external, it was fairly fast, but it's not as fast as it is plugged into a Windows computer or when I plug it into my MacBook. Why? I have no idea. And when I plugged in that Western Digital mechanical hard drive to this, it was dog slow, like ridiculously slow. And you go into it saying, I know this is a mechanical hard drive, so it's not as fast as SSD, but I had used that drive for years on a Windows computer and I know this drive is capable of faster than it's going right now. I don't know why it's so slow on this. And if you use a USB hub, which you kind of have to because it only has one port, God forbid you're trying to copy files from one external drive to another external drive, the speed plummets even harder and it's very slow. I'm not sure why that is, because it's not a problem I have on a Windows computer and it's not a problem that I've had on the MacBook, but it is something that I've noticed on the iPad. Not sure why, because once again, it's supposed to be Thunderbolt and it's supposed to be super fast, but it's just not that way on some things. So I don't want to appear to be like dumping all over the iPad Pro because look, like I said, I used it as an everyday computer for all aspects of my business for a month and a half. So it's clearly capable. It can do a lot of things, but like I've gone over in this video, there are certain aspects of using it that are not as pro as would be ideal. Certain things that a real pro, outside of just being a video editor or a photographer or something, would need, and it for some reason is buggy and weird about. Another thing that's a minor annoyance, but you'll probably run into it frequently if you're a pro, is anything you download from the internet only goes into the downloads folder. And that means if you're like me, you often have software that you log into on the web to generate reports for clients on any other computer, on a Mac, on a PC. You could, when it wants to download the PDF, you can tell it where to put it, and it's nice and easy. Navigate to the client folder, save, done. And it's just another minor gripe on using iPad OS that, like the iPhone, it automatically downloads everything to the downloads folder. You don't have any choice in the matter. And so it just creates extra steps. You've got to now go into the downloads folder and share it back out of that to where it actually goes. And God forbid you forget to do that, or you're busy and you're thinking, I don't want to deal with that crap right now. I got to do all this other stuff. I'll come back to it. Then you sometimes fall into the scenario where you've got a whole bunch of different reports that were auto-named similar things from the browser that are all in this folder, and you've got to now make sense of all of them and put a whole bunch of them where they go, and it just makes that task feel really monotonous, really arduous at that point, where it could have just been simple if you could have, from the browser, just put them where they go. Little things. These are obviously nitpicks to a point. They're gripes, but they are things. I bring them up because in my line of work, there are things that came up frequently, and it's a minor annoyance. But when it's a minor thing that every day of your work, it's a little bit annoying and a little bit annoying and a little bit annoying, and it makes what you're doing take a little bit longer. It just begins to register for sure. And so I guess in conclusion, I would say overall, I think the iPad Pro is a great device, and it can do a heck of a lot. I mean, I tried to use an iPad for work years ago, and it just was not a good experience, and it didn't last long. This is the most robust an iPad has ever been, and the most capable of being a work machine an iPad has ever been, and I'm happy with it in a lot of ways. Certainly happy to own one, but if you also have a MacBook, I don't think you'd be using this for a lot of those kind of tasks nearly as often when you have a real computer at your disposal. If you're a really light user who's just like, I just want to browse the web and I want to do some basic word processing, yeah, it would be ideal for those things. But then again, if you're that type of person, you're probably not spending all the money to buy an iPad Pro to begin with, because the M1 is probably more than you need if that's your use case. So I hope this is helpful. I feel like if I were buying or considering buying an iPad again, these would be things that I would want to know, especially if I was comparing it against, say, a Surface tablet, and you're wondering, well, is having a full operating system like Windows 10, is it really a drawback to have a mobile OS like iPad OS? In a lot of ways, surprisingly, no. But there are some of the things I've talked about in the video that I think do come at a cost for it being a mobile device and not a quote real computer that may or may not affect your situation. So that's my take on it as a web professional and not strictly a video professional like a lot of the people that talk about the device, and I hope that perspective was valuable for you guys. Put your comments below and I will try to answer any questions that you have, and otherwise I'll see you guys in the next video.